Welcome back to another episode of MotoGP Mac, and today we're going to talk about the race that just happened for the Qatar Grand Prix. Now, before we get into it, here is how they finished. Pecco won it from Brad Binder, Jorge Martin, Marc Marquez, Enea Bastianini, Alex Marquez, Fabio Di Giannantonio, Aleix Espargaro, Pedro Acosta, Maverick Vinales, Fabio Quartararo, Johan Zarco, Joan Mir, Marco Bezzecchi, Miguel Oliveira, Alex Rins, Augusto Fernandez, Franco Morbidelli, Taka Nakagami, Luca Marini, and Jack Miller was the last one across the line. Raul Fernandez didn't finish the race. Now, it took two bites of the cherry to get the race going, but once the race got going, I must say, I don't think I've ever seen Pecco as aggressive at the start of a race before. He really put manners on everyone. He didn't get into the lead straight away. He had to pass Binder and Martin to take the lead, but once he was in the lead, he never really looked under threat or under pressure, really. He always seemed to have an answer. Really strong race from Brad Binder. Didn't really surprise me, but I will be honest, I thought he would fade a small bit towards the end, but he didn't. He did keep the pressure up. Jorge Martin rode a really good race. You know, we do know all Ducatis are suffering with the chatter, but you know, he couldn't get the performance out of it over the course of a race distance compared to the sprint. So, you know, Marquez was catching him at one point towards the end, but he did save a little bit of tire to be able to deal with Marc. Really good race from Marc Marquez, must admit. Benefited from the kind of the aborted start at the first attempt, as his front ride height device didn't lock in on the starting grid. But once he got underway, you know, he had a really good race. It was absolutely epic to see his little battle with Pedro Acosta. I'll speak more about that in a minute, but really good, solid race from Marc. Happy to see him up there. Also, good race from Enea Bastianini. You know, not too far behind Marc Marquez. But again, you know, good to see the beast somewhat back. Alex Marquez as well was all in the tussle. It was really, really good. Really interesting to see how Alex is lifting his game slightly to try and deal with Marc Marquez, your brother, in the same team. Really good performance from Fabio Di Giannantonio. You know, he did have that high side yesterday, so there's no doubt he was a pretty sore boy today, and you know, finishing the race in the points in 7 is not a bad day at the office, if I'm very honest. Aleix Espargaro, the bookie's favourite actually to win the actual main race, didn't really get off the line well, got pushed out a little bit, and you know, I think that was a kind of the story of the race. You know, once he was in the middle of everyone, he was struggling. Pedro Acosta, what can I say about this boy? He was absolutely brilliant. You know, definitely going to battle for the championship at some point. I wouldn't put it out of the question winning a race this year. Podium for sure. You know, in the sprint race, he did really well. In this race, he did also really well. You know, no way, shape or form afraid of any rider out there. You know, was willing to go toe to toe with Marc Marquez and anyone else that wanted to get into his way. Inexperience kind of showed, you know, that he did use too much tire, but saying that, it was epic just to watch him. Maverick Vinales, again, top 10, 13 seconds off the Ducati in front, you know, and just 2 seconds off his own teammate. Not really the best race though, you know, 10 seconds, 12 seconds behind the race leader. You know, there's definitely work needs to be done. Fabio Quartararo won the Japanese race. I know people are calling it the Ducati Cup. I'm going to call the winner of the Japanese race. You know, he did do well to beat Johan Zarco. Not by much though. You know, there was 0.3 of a second in it. So, you know, it is interesting. Joan Mir finished behind Johan Zarco. Marco Bezzecchi, who is still in a lot of trouble with the GP23. He just really can't get a hold of it going into the corners. So it's going to take him some time to adapt to that. Miguel Oliveira had to do a long lap penalty from last season. Alex Rins, again, not so bad if I'm very, very honest. You know, he was about 8 seconds behind Fabio Quartararo, which is not so bad over the course of his first actual in-anger race distance. Augusto Fernandez, he has closed the gap a little bit to Pedro Acosta, but again, the gap is still over 10 seconds, so definitely a lot of work there to do for him. Not a bad race for Franco Morbidelli in the whole bigger picture of, you know, he hasn't tested the bike at all, so realistically good enough first attempt from him. Taka Nakagami and Luca Marini, you know, what can you say about them? They're a good bit behind their own teammates, so look, definitely room for improvement there on both of those. Jack Miller was unlucky that he crashed out in turn one, remounted, and was able to get back on track and at least finish. You know, he didn't actually finish too far behind Luca Marini. I think it was like maybe 0.3 of a second, and that's including a fast crash, and he was still able to almost catch the Honda. So it's not really that good for looking at Luca Marini on the Honda. Raul Fernandez, as I mentioned, didn't really finish the race. Really excited to have racing back. A lot of action going on. I will digest it during the week and we'll talk a little bit more about it. Overall, though, I was really happy with how the race went. But I would definitely love to know your thoughts. What did you think of the first race of the season? Definitely leave your thoughts in the comments below. And I'll be back again tomorrow with another video.